Why should low IQ me keep talking when Charlie Kirk is brilliant and can answer questions like perfect, the best I've ever seen? Right, him right there with Ravi Zacharias, but Charlie even did it faster. Like he could just Ravi would slow it down for us a little bit. Um, but I saw this morning Charlie Kirk put out all these verses and things in response to somebody like real quick talking about how Christians were into caring for their countries and their governments, and he showed it in the Old Testament. And so this guy challenged him on the New Testament and would try to cut him off. And I've run into people that do that, even though I usually have an answer, but it's not as thorough as Charlie Kirk, but it is central. And I just don't have that kind of memory, for one thing. And not a good, and he's well studied. I'm a good observationalist, but by endurance because it's something I have a gift for. But here's why I put myself in the game. Is because one of the main things I talk about, which I get in trouble for saying this, but evolution. I have a quote that says, "Evolution is real racism. Creation equals one race from God, Adam, and Eve." So I'm showing the difference. Evolution is real racism because it says we come from different animals unequally, and some people say that's not true. Block him, take him off. And they've changed it, but that's what it used to say, that white people came from Neanderthals and black people came from the ape in evolution. That's one of their theories, right? And so as soon as I say that, then they're going to accuse me of believing that. I've had people accuse me of believing that and lying and acting like I support that. No, I'm speaking against it. That's what I'm doing. So first of all, I take a stand for it. Second of all, I've always seen, whenever I've seen a black person or white person ever since I was young and believed in Jesus, so it may be a gift in me, even though I'm not you don't have to be a genius to be saved. So you got to have people like me who are not real smart memory wise, but of course I do believe people have different, I say IQs, but people have different gifts and they are smart at certain things and others aren't smart at other things. I know smart people, really the obviously smart people who are very clumsy, and that they're clumsy in the way they manage things sometimes and all those sorts of things. And so they're not smart in that way. So that's one example. So it's not to pick on them, but so me, I'm not clumsy. So my smart, I do have, you could say I'm smart because it transfers to more agile than most people when I played basketball or something. So and I can see everything on peripheral. If I'm driving, I always know who's behind me and who's beside me, and I've always got to check on that, and I think it matters. So I don't know. People have different things they pay attention to, but the main reason is, though, I never hear anybody. It's like people seem not to get it and not realize how big a deal it is that evolution is real racism. Creation shows one human race from God, Adam, and Eve. And you got the evolutionists calling people who believe in the Bible racist. And then a lot of people who say they believe in the Bible, listen to evolutionists, and so they've mixed it in, and so they can look racist because they're not going to stand up for what I'm standing up for. I'm standing up for the fact that the Bible shows we're one human race. I do that. That's what the main subject I like to talk about. But I don't do it because I have to point out evolution to show the real definition of racism, or evolution is the main weapon they've used to create racism. But I mean, I can look at it 1,000 times, a million times, and so I'm not very smart. But if you look at something a million times and you've studied it from all aspects, and all the evidence shows that's true, and then they're still going to come and say you can't say that. That's hate speech. I'm not inciting violence. Hate speech. I'm inciting the truth. And if I call somebody racist who really is racist, that's not hate speech. That's the truth, and that's calling out the right people. And by my definition of racism, if you believe in evolution, then you're a racist. All right, so prejudice and bigotry is different than racism. I'm not going into all that, and I don't have a great memory for it. Charlie Cook could take this, and I know many people who are similar to him and could take what I'm talking about now and teach it the inside and out of it. But I know Charlie Kirk could do it, and he would actually care about the subject. But I know people who could do it and teach it better than me. And then well, we got that one down. We passed that test, and they're out, and they don't think it mattered, or it's no big deal. They don't understand the value of it. They don't understand that every lie that's told in media is because they've not properly defined the word racism, and they've also used it as to brainwash people, and what they're doing is calling America racist, and they're calling the Bible white supremacist, and claiming somehow that it's racist. And so the founding of America is racist. And so, and I figured something out yesterday, how what they use to brainwash people. But I'll just point this out. The reason they really want, I'm pretty sure, I just figured something out. They want people to never get the death penalty when they're murderers. The Democrats want, you know how many millions of murderers we still have in our jails? And they're running the jails. As far as I can tell, I mean, I've been in shelters, I've been everywhere, and these guys come out, and you're not allowed to speak religion or politics, or they're going to kill you, literally. I mean, I've had more death threats than face-to-face death threats than Kirk and all those guys up in person, up close, without bodyguards, right? So he did a lot more than me. I'm not competing with him. I'm just saying than Candace Owens, than all these political people, and that's from people who've been in jail and gotten out of jail and stuff, and who are killers, and they're going to kill me, right? So if I talk again, so I have to respect it, and I don't talk. So I leave it alone. So I don't do, not like them, I don't repetitively do it and keep going, but they travel, and they're in organized places where you're supposed to be, where that is the topic. So it's a little different, because they're going places where it is the topic, and they're supposed to be civil. The crowd is expected to be civil, unless you're a Democrat, I guess. It's not supposed to be civil if you offend them. But I don't know. But I'm just saying that what I've seen there is that it's typical. If you're going through the shelter system, it's typical. Even at churches, you're not allowed to speak religion or politics. But it's typical amongst a lot of gangs and homeless people. They know not to talk because they don't want to fight to start, and they don't want to get killed, right? So they can't talk religion or politics. But every now and then I'm able to tell them, look, man, the Bible shows one human race, and I can sneak it in every now and then and speak to people on that. And evolution shows real racism, and most of them believe evolution. They get mad at me, and some of them will switch up and say, when I explain, they want me to explain it, and I explain, well, and I know not to bring up the fact about apes, but I bring up Neanderthals. And so, because as soon as I say that evolutionists had taught that black folks came from apes, they twist it and say that I'm the one, I'm saying that. They pretend like I'm saying that, and they call me racist, but they're a supporter of evolution, and they're lying and saying that's not what it used to say, but it did used to say that. But the point is an ape and a Neanderthal aren't the same. And so they're saying we came from different races, and that Indians are a whole different race in American Indians, that they evolved from what? And they don't have, I've never heard anybody say what they evolved from. And I say American Indians came from God, Adam, and Eve, and Noah's family after the flood, and they got to America by boat before everybody else did. So they got here by boat, and they're still part of the same human race, where evolution would say they're just evolved over here, and they're the natives of this land because they just evolved. And so they're not part of the same human race, and that's racism. That there is racism. So the point is, even if I've taught somebody this, that it's an important subject, and other people start talking on it more, that's what I've wanted them to. And so I wanted to show that, and that evolutionists made our drug laws and all those kind of things. So it matters, because they're calling people racist and getting people killed by lying about somebody being racist. And first of all, if you disagree with a real racist, when I call out real racists that are in the Democrat Party, the evolutionists, I'm not saying to kill them. I'm not saying to hurt them. I'm saying to speak truth to them, let them know that hell is coming. We don't live forever. You don't evolve. You die. And you go to heaven or hell. And if you've rejected God, he's going to say, depart from me, ye worker of iniquity, for I never knew you. And he's going to drop you down into hell. And so, but for this earth, we forgive, we apart and go separate ways if you don't get along. But that's not what these guys want to do, because they don't believe in heaven and hell. Some of them will say, this is hell. They're just trying to stump the argument. And so I've met so many people. Most people out there have been taught not to speak politics or religion, and then they push it themselves. And so it's so I want to finish. I just left off a point. So I think that the Democrats have left murderers never go for the death penalty. They have them in jail. They're the ones training all the people who come back out of jail. They've radicalized them because they define the Bible as racist, and it's the only thing that's not racist. It's the only thing that shows one human race, that proves it. It's the only 100% verifiable source that we're only one human race. It shows everything. It shows that God rose from the dead, Jesus rose from the dead, to prove all the miracles in the Old Testament. He didn't just do it for one thing. He proved a lot of things. He proved that we're all one human race from Noah's family after the flood, which on a timeline disproves evolution. So whatever there's theories of evolution where we couldn't have evolved that fast after the flood. So that's just one other proof. But the fact that we're all born and we all die is obvious proof, right? It should be super obvious. And now billions of people, all we do is we get born by a mother and father in some way, whether it's artificial insemination, we have a father, and then we die when we get old, or before that. We've never seen anybody evolve. They all die billions of times now. We got more evidence than ever that evolution does not exist. It's called almost 8 billion people or something, around 8 billion people. So that's every one of them is evidence against evolution. So, I mean, anyhow, but they don't want to allow me to say this, to verify it. Verify the obvious, to validate the obvious, to, confirm the obvious, to give confidence in the obvious. And I'm stuck on the obvious because it's my passion, because it's taking a stand too. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You still choose sides. You still need to choose a side, not by being forced into it, but because you see the evidence is there. You see the love of God is there. You recognize the reasonableness. I mean, there's so many tricks. Like we talk about free speech, and so the Democrat Party just promoted killing in the last few months. They've been promoting killing people who voted for Trump, or people who they call racist, everybody that they're against. People who they label as racist, and they're lying because they are the racists. According to the definitions, the proper definitions I just gave, the Democrat Party is the one that supports racism. They're the ones that support supremacy. They support black supremacy. And see, there's all kinds of black supremacists today, and in the Democrat Party. And so way more than there ever was of white supremacists. Population-wise, there's a huge, and if you go through this, if you're friends to the ghetto or acquaintances to the ghetto, you care about the ghettos, you'll see a lot of black supremacy. You see it, if you've ever been in shelter systems, you'll see black supremacy. You'll see a lot of that. And a lot of them don't realize it because they've been lied to by the Democrat media and stuff. So some people support it and don't realize it. With their language, it supports it. And they don't realize there's such a thing as a black supremacist. Same thing as white, because, and a lot, the ones that really are black supremacists buy into evolution. They usually buy into an Islamic type of belief, or that they believe that white people never existed. No white people will ever go to heaven. Only black people can go to heaven. I've run into it many times, more times. I mean, all the time. I put it like that. Almost all the time, I run into that stuff. But once you do, and once they see that you're against them, then you have to kind of watch your back. If it's a group like the Hebrew Israelites, they call themselves, and but they're starting to recruit white people to it. It was the black Hebrew Israelites. The real Jews were black, and now they've recruited white guys that they've trained in prison. But who trained them? You have to do what they say, or they're going to kill you. So that's what I wanted to say about the brainwashing and how do they radicalize people. Because they got that word, one word behind everything that they say is important, is if you don't believe us, If you don't go along with what we say, if you keep trying to say that the Bible's real, Jesus is real, we're going to kill you. If you keep talking about it, that is. You better be silent, right? And so they come out into the homeless shelters and venues like that, and people do, and they're like, don't talk religion or politics. And the people that work shelters say, don't talk religion or politics. I advise against it. No, you better not talk it. And then they'll even make a rule if they see people fighting and arguing, you can't talk religion or politics in here because those people want to fight and kill somebody. And so that's, I think, why the Democrats don't want the death penalty. They're using people who really kill people to stop people from talking religion and politics, which is our biggest freedom, because you find the truth. So even though I don't have a good memory, my spirit likes the peaceable truth, of real truth about life and death and what really matters in this world. Forgiveness and love that extends the life while you're here even. It extends the value of life here. It's not just the Holy Spirit himself doing it, but his truths and his commandments extend. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. It allows you to have private property rights and peace, and to be able to think and praise God with it. And so we have the battles. It's confusing because we have the battles of the flesh every day, and that doesn't go away. And now so you got some people, even the Republican Party, who become the Pharisee and say you have to be this perfect soldier your whole life, and if we've caught you in a sin, then you're a fake, hypocrite. That's not hypocrisy to fall into a sin. That Paul talks about the battle of the flesh and the spirit regularly, and we have it our whole life. God does not get rid of our stomachs when we get saved. He gives us hope to do good, right? And mostly, what's the purpose of that? To make ourselves look good, to make ourselves keep the reputation, to live up to what you're saying and be your slave to holiness. No, so they do want you to be a slave to holiness, but the holiest thing we can do, which is possible, is to be afraid to break the commandments of against loving our neighbors. And so it's not that hard to not steal from people. It's hard to control our stomachs. It's hard to control our lust. Lusting after anything and lusting after food, it's hard to know if you're single, if you're noticing a man or woman too much or thinking you want them too much, even if they don't believe in God and you believe in God, stuff like that. If you have personalities that get along and you broke the ice and you have a comfort barrier that's been broken down and can talk to this person and feel comfortable talking to them, but then you find out they're not a believer, and you still want them, that's lust. That's loving the creation more than the creator. At that point, it's time to back away. So those are hard sins. Those are the sins that everybody's going to battle. And they're not easy sins, but in a sense it is easy. Anything can be a sin that's a temptation, but it's once you understand it and learn it. But it's not. It's easy to not steal. It's easy to not want to steal if you love your neighbors. It's easy to not. It's easy to not want to do things to hurt people, to want to control your temper and not want to hurt people physically. If you love God and love your neighbor, there's also other incentives not to, because you don't want to get in trouble, caught, or be looked frowned upon. But the Democrat Party is making that stuff look okay. They try to make it look okay. So, and I say not just leftists, but the Democrat Party knows the leftists run the Democrat Party mostly, and they don't mind the Palestinians protesting and hating and saying kill every Jew and stuff like that, which is what the Nazis were like. And they're calling the people who protect that Nazis the opposite. So that they're always, so just like they're calling people who are against evolution racist when it's the opposite. Evolution is racism. Multiple races is racism. Believing in multiple races is racism. Believing in one human race is not racism. So it's the opposite of racism. It's so how do we get ethnicities? I'll repeat this again. We got ethnicities from God changing language. So it wasn't about skin tone or anything. I think skin tone darkened after God changed the language. People moved south below the Sahara Desert and further out to India and probably live near the Sahara, near the equator is the point. But it's below the Sahara Desert, near the equator in Africa. And so your skin's going to darken to protect you from the sun. Vitamin D, it's more vitamin D in the plants and all that is the scientific explanation I've heard a while back. And I hadn't heard much more about it because, they don't, the media can silence anybody who would go for that theory. And they would, for years, they called everything, they wouldn't study because a certain network runs the media and would silence Christian scientists. So for the longest time, they never even checked the Red Sea for chariots to see if the story about Moses crossing the Red Sea was true. But in recent years, I think because of my influence of saying, why don't the archaeologists that I used to write media 20 years ago, and I was saying almost 20 years ago, and I would be saying why don't they study this? Why don't they study that? I called myself Brainstorming Bob back then. So that's another nickname I have. Still have. I shouldn't need to revive it. But I don't have time to brainstorm anymore like that. But so at least I've learned some stuff and I can talk about it. And so the way my memory works is I really have a lot packed in my head. I do. So you could say more than average person does. More than almost anybody does, maybe. But I have a terrible recollection. But a lot of stuff comes to me, like when I'm talking and I remember something like that. But I do good on a multiple choice test, on testing what I've studied and understood myself, but who can create that test? Only me when I'm talking to you. So, when I'm talking and sharing. But, so, see, I forgot the point before that. Terrible memory. But, anyway, I don't want to say that because a lot of people can forget that, and don't give up on your memory. Just do what I do and talk like I'm doing now and change the subject, and whatever it was will come back to you. But for the sake of this video and the theme of the video, I'm not going to, and the time left, I'm not going to bore somebody while I fish for that point. I'm going to go to the main subject. But I talk about evolution is racism. That's the preferred subject I'd actually like to talk about, but I talk about a lot of other subjects, and that comes up in it a lot of times when I'm talking about legalizing trees, leaves, and teas, natural plants, which doesn't include legalizing smoking. So I'm not saying changing smoking laws and stuff, but I point to the fact that evolutionists started prohibition. KKK burned crosses because they hate Christ. The Democrats lied. President Obama lied, and it would say how the KKK came from Christianity. They say they've told the whole world that, and they're telling them that all these Christians are white supremacists, and it's the opposite. The white supremacists came from Obama's party. They came from the Democrat Party. They came from evolution specifically, because the evolutionary cycle, they believed that some races are more advanced in the evolutionary cycle back then. So they believed that black folks were part of evolution, and so were white folks. But white folks are more advanced in the evolutionary cycle, and black folks are behind on that. And that's part of one of the teachings or theories that they put out there. I wouldn't have come up with it. I mean, I heard it back then regularly. And that's something that was regularly heard back then. And people will say, that's not true. That's not what they used to believe. Well, evolution beliefs, they keep changing them because they've been called out by me for being racist. And I used to call out MSNBC when I used to write as Brainstorming Bob. After I got past the brainstorming stuff, I got into the philosophy more. So, I came up with Brainstorming Bob. I came up with roller coaster travel. I came up with making generators on your bicycles, stationary bikes, and putting generators to charge batteries, and for your own house. Or I came up with different things like that. Tons of stuff. As many things as I could think of, and so, but I started getting more into the philosophy side of stuff and truth, and seeing misconceptions and lies and misconceptions every time I watch the media. And then I'd see just simple truths that evolution is real racism and creation is one shows one human race from God, Adam, and Eve. So how are they always calling these people who the Bible racist, basically? So they're calling our country based on racism, based on white supremacist laws, because it was built on the Bible. The Bible shows one human race. The Declaration of Independence shows one human race. All right, so I can repeat this stuff 1,000 times, and they're still going to block people from seeing it. Used to. Hopefully, we're getting past that for a while, because there's been ups and downs where I'm the one that showed that the Republican Party, you've heard Candace Owens talk about it. You've heard a lot of people talk about it, but it started with me pointing out that Abraham Lincoln, I would say, Christian Republican president Abraham Lincoln outlawed slavery. He won the Civil War and ended slavery, by law, that is. So the Democrats brought slavery back by creating the drug cartel, by the evolutionists claiming they're real scientists, and outlawing the best natural plant medicines that God created, pushing to do that, and it worked. Because it's a tricky thing. It's easy to talk bad about medicine because you can get too drunk, you can overdose, you can do all those things. You can lose your temper, you can be too sexual, all those kind of things. And so that if you're too drunk, all those kind of things can happen. And the Bible talks about many forms of drunkenness. It doesn't call it being high. It's another form of drunkenness. So the Bible gives you warnings, but those warnings the Bible gives are what you put on a medicine bottle. The warnings on a medicine bottle, same thing. The Bible also shows in Proverbs 31 that medicine, it's okay to use stuff medicinally. All right. So we've twisted stuff into making medicine the unpardonable sin today. It's a cultural thing. That's for the economy. They think it helps the economy. I don't. That's another subject I think I'm good on. I have a knack for. I have a gift for seeing. So I guess I have a gift for seeing. Evolution is real racism, right? So you don't have to be the smartest to have that gift. You just have a natural compassion for other people because you truly believe in heaven and hell. And so you've seen past all the tricks, all the stuff that says white man can't jump, only black people can sing and white people can't sing, and all that stuff. And by the way, you could say that's racist or prejudice. That's probably racist against white people to say that. It is. And so I just looked at the definition of racism, and it's suggesting that maybe the black culture is further along in the evolutionary cycle, and that's why they can sing and white people can't sing. That's why Wynton Marsalis is possibly the best trumpet player in history, one of them for sure. And you don't see a white guy up there. That's not true. There's a few white guys that are really good on trumpet too. So basketball, well, you got Larry Bird. That stuff can be cultural. Now there's a lot of polygamy in black cultures where they marry strong people, and all that. And there was also breeding and slavery where you married where you had the strongest black man, most athletic black man having sex with 100 women to breed strong black men. So that's reasons that you have more black athletes who are top athletics than you do white people, it seems, at times. So not when you get into biking and skateboarding and all that, but it appears that way. But that's also cultural because there's more people in the black community sticking to a sport, and more well trained, some of them too. Somebody knows. I could tell you myself how do you succeed in a sport. I'll give you this tip, and I know from learning the hard way, I didn't succeed. Part because I tried to do more than one thing. I stuck to trumpet and track and field, and I wasn't doing too much really, but it was too much for me. So I think I would have succeeded in track and field if I just did track and field and nothing else. But I can tell you that focusing on one sport and not trying to do all sports and not trying to be a jack of all trades, you're going to do really good in that sport if you just put all your time into it. It's not that you have to work harder than everybody else. It's going through the systematic process and sticking to it and not spreading yourself thin. That's how the people I saw succeed did that. Okay, anyway, I got to go. I'm out of time. And, what matters is that you take a stand for your beliefs, but also that you make sure what you believe is validated and has evidence. Like Christ rose from the dead, he disqualified all the other guys when he did that. So it's all false religion if he's not in it.